Hi everyone, welcome to the CodeQueryHub. In this video, let's learn about the control flow statements in Python. So these are mainly of two types. First is your conditional statements, which include if, elif, and else. And second is your iterative statements, which includes for loop and while loop. So let's understand conditional statements in this video. First, let's try to see the syntax for writing the conditional statements. So it starts with the if keyword and then you have to write the condition. And if you are having more than one condition, then you can write more conditions. And the necessary condition is you have to put the colon here and then press enter. And here you will write the code block. So you can see that this code block has been written after a tab. So this is known as indentation in Python. So this is the necessary condition that the code blocks must be indented to the right of the conditions. Now, if you are having more conditions, then you can write it with the help of elif keyword and then you can write the conditions in the similar way. Put the colon and here you have to write the code block. Again, if you are having more conditions, then you can write it. And you can even put as many as condition as required. And at last, you can write the else part. And you don't need to give any condition in the else part. Just you have to write the code block after indentation. So this is how the syntax can be written in the conditional statements. So let me write the conditions like code block needs to be indented to the right of the statement it belongs. And next is, suppose if you are having only one condition, then if you write only this one, it is fine. So it is not mandatory that you have to provide the conditions in elif or else. So you can write it as, it is not mandatory to provide else and elif. If you provide condition and only if, it will also work fine. Now let's understand the syntax more with the help of example. So let me take an example. Suppose you want to input a number from the user and check whether that number is even or odd. Then let's see how it works. So the example is you have to take the input from the user and check whether the number is even or odd. Now, in this question, you have to take the input from the user. And in the previous video, we have learned that how to take the input from the user. So we are having a predefined function that is input. So you can write any message here. So enter the number. And if you write like this, just run this cell. And if you take any number, so it will be stored in the string format. So by default, output of input function is string. So, and we need to check whether it is even or odd. So first we need to convert it into integer. So we are having type conversion function. And now if we take any number, so yes, it is stored as integer. Now, this is a temporary input. We need to store it somewhere so that we can check it. So let's take a variable. Let's say n, and you are storing it into n. And now if you run it, So yes. Now, if the user is entering any number, it is stored in the variable n. So next is we have to check whether this number is even or odd. So let me write it here only. So for checking the number is even or odd, so we all know that if a number is divisible by 2, it is even, otherwise it's odd. So how to check the divisibility? So we have discussed the operators. So in arithmetic operators, we are having this modulus operator. So it is used to get the remainder, and for a number to be divisible by 2, the remainder should be 0. So now let's see how it works. So the condition will be if this number divisible by 2 gives the remainder 0, means we have to compare it. So then it will be even, otherwise it will be odd. So let's put this condition in this syntax. So we are having two conditions, like if this number is divisible by 2, then it is even, else it will be odd. So let me write it as if this condition, colon, we have to print the number is even, else, and we don't need to write any condition in else. So just put the colon and you have to write the next statement, that is number is odd. So let's run this. And if you enter any number, 6, so yeah, number is even, and let's take any odd number, that is 9. So number is odd. So it's working fine. So in this way, the conditional statements work. Now let's take one more example. So this is the example with a single condition that we have to check the number is even or odd. So we are having only one condition here. Now let's see another example where we are having two conditions. Let me write this code here. Now let's take another example with two conditions. Now let's say you have to take the input from the user and check whether the number is even and divisible by 5. Number is even and divisible by 5. So yes, in this case, you are having two conditions. You have to check whether the number is even or odd. And second is, it should be divisible by 5 also. So let's create conditions. So the first condition can be checked, like we have to compare the remainder by 0. And if you have to check the divisibility by 5, then this number must be divisible by 5 also. So this is how we can write the conditions. Now, let's try to input any number from the user. So enter any number. And since the output of this function is string, So we have to first convert it into the integer, and let's store in another variable num, and let's say this is num. Now let's try to write the conditions. If condition is, first condition is this, and second condition is this. So you are having two condition here. So in this case, you have to include all the conditions under brackets, and then join with the help of logical operators. So you need only those numbers which will be divisible by 2 and 5 both. So you have to join them with the help of AND operator. So this is a logical operator. So in this way, the multiple conditions can be inserted in the if block. So now the code block is, you have to print that the number is divisible by 2 and 5, else print the number is not. Now let's run this. Let's take carry input 8. So the output should be number is not divisible by 2 and 5. Yes. And let's take any number which is divisible by 2 and 5 both. So let's take 20. So yes, in this way, the conditional statement works. Now let's write the rules first, writing the multiple conditions. So steps to build the conditions. So first, we need to create individual conditions like we did it. So first create individual conditions. Second is then put each of them, we have write the individual conditions and then we have enclosed them in the brackets. So we have to write it as then put each of them in brackets. And finally, you have to join them as per your requirement with the help of logical operators. So you can join it with the help of and you can also include or if the question will be the number is even or divisible by 5. So as per the requirement, you have to change here the logical operator. So let's write it as then join them using logical operators. So these are the steps to build the condition in the conditional statements. Now, why we have to enclose them in the brackets? Because we have learned in the operators precedence that the brackets has the highest precedence. So this is helpful for minimizing the errors because it will treat these conditions separately and will minimize the errors. Now, let's see one more example. Suppose we have to check whether the number is positive and even, positive and odd. Let's take multiple conditions here so that we can use the elif condition also. Negative and even, and negative and odd. This is how we can take the input from the user. So let's assign some another variable num1, and we are using this variable to. Now let's try to include all the conditions one by one. So the first condition is you have to check for the number to be positive and even. So let me write the conditions here. So the condition will be positive. So num1 greater than 0, and here that num1 should be divisible by 2. So this becomes your first condition. Now in this case, when you want to find the positive and odd, then how to write the condition? Let me write this condition in the another block so that the question. So this is your question, and now let's try to solve here. So let me copy it. So this is your first condition. And the second condition will be for positive number should be greater than 0, and odd means the num1 is not equal to 0. Sorry. Num1 divisible by 2 not equal to 0 means the remainder will not be 0 in this case. And negative and even, let's check this condition. If a number is greater than, sorry, less than 0, then it is negative. And for even this condition, and for positive, you can also include equal to. Here not equal to 0. This is how you can write all these conditions. Now let's write in the conditional block. So we have to start with the if condition, and your first condition is this one. So let's copy it. If, and you have to enclose all the condition under bracket. So let's put the colon here. And in this case, the number is positive and even. And second case, so you are having many conditions, so which you can include with the help of elif. Now the second condition is this one. So let's copy it. So write the individual condition under bracket. Print. Here the number is positive and odd. And the next condition is elif. This one. So let's copy it. Print. The number is negative and even. And your remaining only one condition, so which can be included in the else statement. Else, and you don't need to write the last condition here because you don't need to write anything in the else. So you can just write the print statement here. So the number is negative and odd. Now let's try to run this cell. Yeah. So enter any number. So let's say 8. So this number is positive as well as even. So let's see the output. So yes, the number is positive and even. Let's take another example. Positive odd number, that is 5. So yeah, positive and odd. Now let's take the third case. Let's take any negative number and even number. So yeah, negative and even and negative and odd. So let's take -9. So this is negative and odd. So all the cases have been covered in these conditions. So this is how we can write the programs and how to write the conditions inside the conditional statements. So we have discussed about how the operators works in the previous video. So if you are finding any difficulty in this video, please go and watch it. It will help you to learn more about the coding. Now let's do one thing. If you want to check the type of variable. So yeah, let's do it. Let's take one more interesting example. Suppose you want to check the type of variable. So how we can do it with the help of conditional statement. So we have learned about the variables and we have also learned about the type function. So this is the predefined function which is used to check the data type of a variable. So let's use it. Suppose we are having any variable and let's give var as the variable and let's assign any value to it. Like let me say 67.89. So this is your float value. Now let's create a program to check whether this variable is of which data type. So let's try to write with the help of conditional statement. So let's start with the if keyword and we have to write the condition. If type of this variable and this double equal to is used to compare the left hand side and the right hand side. So this will give you the type, like whether it is float or string or boolean. We have discussed this in the previous video. So let's say is int, then print the variable is integer, and the next condition you can write it in elif type of variable equal to suppose it's float, then print variable is float. Next condition elif. So we are having basically 4 data types, that is int, float, string and boolean. So let's take the third condition. So it will be string, so which is str in Python. So let's write it as. In this case, the variable is string. And the last case is if none of these conditions satisfy, then the variable type should be boolean. So let me write it as else print boolean. Now this variable is float. So this time the answer should be float. Variable is float. So let's run this. So the variable is float. Suppose let's change this value and let's give the any integer value and run this cell. Now the variable is integer and let's try to give any string value. Hello world. Now the variable is string and let's try to give. So we have discussed that the Boolean values are only two, that is true or false. So let's give true value to it. And now the variable is Boolean. So in this way, we can also check the types of data with the help of conditional statement. So this is the most important use case which you are going to implement in the real world project. So that's it for today for the conditional statements. If you found this video helpful, please do like, share and subscribe to Code Query Hub. So see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.